So, Katie, can you tell me a little bit about why you decided to do this? How'd you get involved?
I've been through quite a few of these shutdowns. This one felt a little different after the holidays, and there was a sense that it may continue on. And I now live on the outside of the park at the northern end, but I have lived in the interior, and just recall the isolation living within there, and just kind of feeling separate from the rest of the world. And during these shutdowns, they can be even more isolating. So Jenny Burr and I decided after the new year to go ahead and just start asking for some collections of food that we initially just based out of the Mammoth Community Center right in Mammoth Hot Springs, Wyoming. And within a week of that, we started sending food boxes into the interior. I believe we're on week 2 right now of that, going into week 3 here. But that was where we first saw our need, where we realized that if we were going to start missing paychecks or multiple paychecks, that people were really probably not going to be asking for what they needed, but if the food showed up, they would be using it.
Can you tell me a little bit about being on the interior, since you've lived there before? You talk about it being isolating. What's that like?
When I say isolating, I don't mean that in a negative way. The interior of Yellowstone is the most phenomenal place I've ever lived. It is incredibly special. It's a place that time does slow down, particularly in the winter months. You get to live with, the bison. You're in with the migration of the bison. You're out there alone with them oftentimes on your patrols. And it's just a space that there's very few people. There's some of the locations in the interior right now that have 2 or 3 people living in them. And that would mean for a district or an area, that would be, you wouldn't have another neighbor for another 20, 30, 40 miles. And so it just can be an isolating and very, very quiet place. And a place that's hard to get in and out of. You do snowmobile in and out of those places. It's very weather dependent. And those are long trips to make by yourself on a snowmobile.
And I'll bet it's hard to take supplies in and out.
It is. You generally sled them in, snowmobile them in, and if you have quite a bit, you do tend to stock up quite a bit for the winter because you're not sure if you'll get out for 2 or 3 weeks at a time, just depending on the weather of the winter. But yes, you do sled them in, and but you don't, you're sort of stuck bringing things in that are easily transportable. So the eggs and that sort of thing, or your greens are really hard to travel with because they wilt by the time you get in because they oftentimes freeze. So it's hard to bring in kind of the normal everyday grocery store run items.
You wouldn't give it up, though?
No. We gave it up for family reasons, but the interior is an incredible place.
All right. And had you heard from people in the interior? Had they contacted you in any way?
With my position in the park, I'm in daily contact with staff within the interior, and I've got a good working relationship with a lot of them where I felt like I could ask some of the hard questions about how they really were doing. And I did start to get some feedback where there was a need for different types of supplies that were coming out. And now we're really sort of dealing with the morale issue, which is certainly understandable. Much of the staff on the interior right now is working without pay and interacting with the public, and that is challenging at times, just morale-wise. So getting the food into these folks was definitely something we could do, and working to get some of the sweets in there as well.
So I suppose they really appreciate that.
I think they do, yes.
All right, great. Thank you.